Hurricane Katrina flooded 80% of New Orleans and killed over 1,800 people, the official narrative was simple: the storm was too powerful. But investigators found something worse. Multiple floodwalls collapsed at water levels they were designed to withstand. The foundations were under-engineered, the sheet piles didn't reach deep enough. The system was built by the book, but the book was wrong. So the federal government spent $14.5 billion rebuilding it. Yet the levee system protecting this city remains fundamentally broken, and understanding why starts with the ground it was built on. The city sits inside a vast sea-level depression, bounded by Lake Pontchartrain to the north, the Mississippi River to the south, and rapidly eroding wetlands to the east and west. This physical layout places much of the municipal footprint below sea level, with an average elevation of just 6 feet beneath the Gulf. In some neighborhoods, the ground sinks 10 to 15 feet below the surrounding waters. This makes the city a literal bowl, where rainwater cannot naturally drain, and rising tides are constantly held at bay. To keep the dry land habitable, engineers constructed a massive perimeter defense, roughly 350 miles of levees, concrete floodwalls, and steel gates. But this massive barrier network is not a permanent safeguard. It is a defensive line under constant, unrelenting hydraulic pressure. In New Orleans, flooding is not an anomalous disaster or a rare surprise. It is a baseline physical condition. The survival of the city depends entirely on the structural integrity of this artificial barrier, a system built on shifting, unstable delta soils that are slowly sinking deeper into the basin. On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall near Burris, Louisiana, as a Category 3 storm. The powerful cyclone pushed a wall of water ahead of it, driving a historic storm surge directly into the channels and canals surrounding New Orleans. The artificial perimeter, designed to hold back the Gulf, collapsed. 53 separate breaches opened across the levee and floodwall system, sending billions of gallons of lake and river water rushing into the low-lying city. Within hours, 80% of New Orleans sat underwater. In neighborhoods like the Lower Ninth Ward and Lakeview, the deluge rose up to 15 feet deep, submerging entire blocks to their rooftops. For weeks, the water remained, turning residential streets into stagnant lakes. The physical collapse of the defenses triggered a devastating human disaster. The flooding killed 1,833 people, making Katrina the deadliest American natural disaster since the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane. More than 250,000 residents were forced to flee, scattered across the country in a sudden, permanent displacement. Many of those families never returned. What began as a regional storm quickly became a national reckoning. The destruction of New Orleans was a structural failure of public infrastructure, rather than an unavoidable act of nature. Instead of simply overtopping the barriers, the surge physically broke the concrete walls and earthen levees, raising a fundamental question about how a system built to protect hundreds of thousands of lives could fail so completely. Post-storm forensic investigations, led by the Interagency Performance Evaluation Task Force and independent engineering teams, revealed that the barriers did not simply overflow. Many of the 53 breaches occurred at water levels well below what the structures were designed to withstand. At the 17th Street Canal, the water was approximately 5 feet below the top of the concrete floodwall when the structure collapsed. The failures were fundamentally structural and geotechnical. As water rose in the canals, it created immense lateral pressure, pushing against the concrete eye walls. Because the underlying soil consisted of weak, water-saturated clays and soft peat, the foundations began to yield. Water forced its way beneath the steel sheet piles, initiating a process known as hydraulic piping. This subsurface seepage eroded the soft clay, undercutting the base of the floodwalls and creating massive voids. Investigators discovered that the steel sheet piles at the canal were driven to depths shallower than specified, leaving their tips suspended in the unstable clay layer rather than reaching a secure, load-bearing stratum. Instead of tipping or overturning, the entire concrete wall slid horizontally along the sheared clay foundation. The system had been designed by the book, but the book was wrong. Katrina was an engineering failure as much as a weather disaster. To repair the shattered defenses, the federal government authorized a $14.5 billion reconstruction program, tasking the Army Corps of Engineers with the largest civil works project in its history. This new network, the Hurricane and Storm Damage Risk Reduction System, sought to encase the metropolitan area. Over the next decade, workers raised and fortified 350 miles of levees and floodwalls, rebuilt 73 pumping stations, and installed massive storm gates at major canal openings. The anchor of this defense was the lake-borne surge barrier, completed in 2013. Spanning nearly 2 miles and standing 26 feet high, the $1.3 billion concrete wall closed off the major water channels that had funneled Katrina's surge directly into the city. But this entire system was built around a specific compromise. The government did not design the barriers to withstand the worst possible storm. Instead, they engineered the system to resist a 100-year event. In technical terms, this means the walls are only designed to handle a flood that has a 1% chance of occurring in any given year. This standard allowed the city to secure federal flood insurance, but it also established a stark reality. A larger defense system is not a permanent shield. A 100-year design standard does not mean a catastrophic storm occurs only once a century. Instead, it represents a 1% chance of such a flood happening in any single year. Over the course of a standard 30-year home mortgage, this translates to a 26% chance, greater than 1 in 4, that the barriers will be overtopped. Category 4 and 5 hurricanes routinely generate storm surges that far exceed this design limit, leaving the city exposed to any storm stronger than the system's baseline. When Hurricane Ida made landfall in August 2021 as a Category 4 storm with 150 mile-per-hour winds, it was widely viewed as the ultimate test of the new defenses. The barriers held, but engineers point to a key detail. Ida did not strike New Orleans directly, and its winds weakened significantly before reaching the city's perimeter. The system survived, but the threat of a direct hit from a maximum intensity hurricane remains unanswered. The new walls only address the water coming from the Gulf. They do nothing to halt the slow, structural sinking of the city itself. Due to groundwater extraction and soil compaction, some neighborhoods in New Orleans are subsiding at a rate of up to 2 inches per year. As the ground drops, the relative height of the floodwalls decreases, quietly eroding the very protection the federal government spent billions to build. Since 2005, parts of the New Orleans basin have subsided an additional foot or more relative to the sea. This sinking creates a quiet, mathematical degradation of the entire defense network. When the surrounding earth sinks, it drags the massive concrete and earthen structures down with it, shrinking the essential buffer known as freeboard. The math of this decline is stark and unavoidable. If a floodwall stands 3 feet above the surrounding ground, and that ground sinks by 2 feet, the barrier's effective protective margin drops to just 12 inches. This systemic sinking is the direct consequence of human engineering. For thousands of years, the Mississippi River regularly overflowed its banks, depositing millions of tons of sediment that naturally built up and replenished the delta. Early 20th century flood control structures, built to keep the river in its channel, permanently severed this connection. Deprived of the annual cycles of fresh sediment, the soft organic soils beneath New Orleans dry out, compact, and slowly compress under their own weight. Without sediment to rebuild the coast, the protective buffer of the surrounding wetlands is disintegrating. Louisiana's coastal marshes are vanishing into the Gulf of Mexico at an average rate of 1 football field every 100 minutes. This rapid collapse of the wetlands exposes the inner levee system to larger, more destructive waves directly from the open ocean. Rather than a sudden dramatic break, this represents a steady, quiet degradation of New Orleans' remaining defenses. Historically, these coastal wetlands served as the primary line of defense, physically dampening storm surge before it ever reached the concrete and dirt walls of the city. Coastal scientists rely on a basic rule of thumb. Every mile of healthy marsh can reduce surge heights by approximately 1 foot. But this natural shock absorber has been steadily carved away. Since 1930, Louisiana has lost more than 2,000 square miles of coastal wetlands, stripping New Orleans of its outer armor. The impact of this loss is visible when comparing historical storms. During Hurricane Betsy in 1965, the extensive marshes that still existed east of the city absorbed massive amounts of water and wave energy, significantly reducing the surge that reached the inner city. By the time Katrina struck 40 years later, much of that buffer had dissolved into open water, allowing the storm surge to sweep unimpeded into the canal networks with maximum force. While the Louisiana Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority has developed projects to rebuild these marshes, the effort remains severely underfunded. Large-scale coastal restoration requires tens of billions of dollars, yet current projects receive only a small fraction of the necessary capital. The protective shield outside the city is shrinking faster than it is being rebuilt, forcing the engineered barriers to bear the entire load. In the hydrology of the Gulf, the coastline itself is the first wall of defense, and that wall is disappearing. This means the city is continuously losing the geographical insulation that historically made its low-lying basin habitable. While the massive outer walls protect New Orleans from the sea, they also trap everything inside. Because the city sits in a sub-sea level bowl, rain cannot drain naturally. To stay dry, it relies on the world's largest urban drainage pump system, a network of more than 120 pumping stations designed to vacuum water from the streets and push it over the levees. On paper, this system is a marvel of engineering, capable of removing nearly 29 billion gallons of water per day. But the infrastructure is quietly decaying. The average age of these pumps is over 50 years, with some critical machinery dating back to the early 1900s. On August 5, 2017, a slow-moving summer thunderstorm put this fragile network to the test. It was not a hurricane or a storm surge, just a heavy rainstorm that dumped up to 10 inches of water in a few hours. Yet half the city flooded. In neighborhoods like Mid-City and Treme, streets turned into lakes, and water entered thousands of homes. Post-storm investigations revealed a severe crisis of deferred maintenance. During the heavy rain, 16 of the city's 148 major drainage pumps were completely out of service. Worse, 3 of the 5 ancient turbines that generate the 25-cycle electrical power needed to run them had failed. This internal vulnerability is entirely separate from the threat of Gulf hurricanes, but it proves that even with the gates closed, New Orleans can still drown from the inside out. Before Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans was home to nearly 484,000 residents. By 2010, the decennial census recorded just 343,000, a sudden population drop of nearly 30% that permanently shifted the city's social structure. While wealthier, higher elevation neighborhoods experienced rapid rebuilds and returning families, the lowest lying areas like the lower Ninth Ward and New Orleans East never fully recovered. Today, the city's population remains far below its pre-storm peak, with recent estimates hovering around 364,000 residents. Those who stayed, or who had no other viable options but to return, are disproportionately lower income. They live in the bowl's deepest depressions, where the ground is actively sinking and natural coastal marsh buffers have dissolved. This geographic sorting of wealth and risk means those most exposed are also the least equipped to survive. For these households, a 30-year mortgage carries a 40% chance of a major flood, yet they have the fewest resources to safely evacuate or successfully rebuild. Ultimately, the true vulnerability of New Orleans lies in the precarious lives of the people left inside when the system fails. To help us produce more investigative reports, please subscribe. The federal government spent $14.5 billion rebuilding the protection system, yet these massive barriers are trying to defend a city that is still actively sinking faster than engineers can compensate. Despite the sheer scale of the concrete and steel, the rebuilt levees are designed to protect only against a 100-year storm, a standard smaller than the actual hurricane that destroyed New Orleans in 2005. Outside the gates, the coastal wetlands that historically served as the city's primary shock absorber are disappearing faster than current restoration programs can reverse. Inside the bowl, approximately 383,000 people remain. living below sea level and surrounded by water on all sides. Refusing the comforting narrative of a solved engineering challenge is a matter of factual precision. The question is no longer whether the city will face another major flood. The question is whether anything has been done in the 2 decades since Katrina that actually changes the ultimate outcome, or if the system has simply delayed the inevitable. To help us produce more investigative reports, please subscribe. Today, New Orleans rests behind a shield worth $14 billion, designed by the book, but the book remains dangerously wrong. As sea levels rise and storms intensify, the margin for engineering error shrinks to 0. The threat is not a distant prediction, it is the next high tide. Subscribe for more deep dive investigative documentaries.